Good night, everyone doing tonight. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Ermi J. Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a short news and a word on tonight. Now, first we're gonna talk about update with Israel. Now, their soldiers had some of their soldiers had got killed when they were ambushing or trying to rescue the hostages in Gaza. So Israel officially confirmed overnight. This happened overnight that 10 Israel Defense Forces soldiers was killed in the area of Gaza City. Excuse me, the area in Ginsburg what this had happened at. So fighting since the war with Hezbollah had begun more than 6 weeks ago. So their ambush was trying to rescue, the hostages, and some of Israel's soldiers had got killed in the ambush attack. So we also gonna talk about impeachment. So the House Democrat had hold news brief ahead a possible vote for Mr. President Biden impeachment. So the impeachment are still set for Mr. President Biden. Now we see the Democrat is supporting President Biden for his impeachment. So there are insignificant evidence against Mr. President Biden, but now they've been investigating this here for a long time. And said they found no evidence, nothing for no criminal crime. So I am very concerned about this matter. And we have real crisis to deal with, but instead we are set for impeachment with no evidence against it. Now since there is no fact, no real evidence, so I blocked the impeachment. I requested there will be no impeachment. Let's deal with the crisis that we have right now. The shutdown that's soon gonna come out. We still have crisis. We got 2 wars we dealing with right now, and what he in the middle of dealing with also. So we gonna block the impeachment. So we gonna forgiveness. We're gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about forgiveness, the love of God. Forgiveness is involved in decision to let go of resentment and move forward. So this is for all who was connected with me. I forgive you all. So let's move forward and have a beautiful year of 2024. So I forgive everyone, so we all can have a blessed year that's coming. So we're gonna talk about the update on inflation. So in November the prices had increased by 3.1% compared to November of last year. According to 12-month percentage the change in the consumer price index, the monthly inflation rate for goods and services in the United States. So economics of the inflation rate is a measure of the change in the price level over time. So the rate of decrease in the purchasing power of money is appropriate is equal. So we're gonna look at the chart. We're gonna look at November. November was 3.1%. That was good. So October was 3.2. That still was good. So these numbers pretty much is so we've been doing good this year. September it was 0.7, and August 3.7. So we have September and August 3.7, which is still good numbers. So I do have a word for you tonight. God can perform a miracle just like He said He would. He made a promise to Sara and she thought it was funny. But God turned her laugh into laughter. So God had promised of children for Abraham that Sarah would be the mother of the nation. But time had passed by. She still was waiting on that baby. Didn't God say He gonna give us a baby? We getting old. Day by day, we getting old. We don't have no baby yet. So the time had passed by. She was fed up for waiting for a baby. Now, sometimes you could get fed up and get tired of waiting. But the best thing is to wait, because she made a disaster of the situation by putting the matter into her own hands. So she was fed up waiting. So Sarah had took matters into her own hands, and she gave her slave Hagar, to Abraham to bear a child, to fulfill God's promise. So we cannot fulfill God's promise. When God got a promise for us, we can't fulfill it. Nobody but God can fulfill. She wanted to get started and fulfill the promise that God had said, because she feel like, okay, the time is ticking. We getting old. So Sarah asked herself, may she not be the one that bear the promised child that didn't work out for her slave girl. So Sarah was back to square one. Because see, we can't put matters in our own hands. It would not work out. So she was back to square one, because she thought when the slave girl had a baby, she thought she was going to turn the baby over to her. But she did. She like, I want to raise my own baby. So she was back to square one again. And we cannot fulfill the promise that God said He's going to fulfill for us. So it took a long time. And that's for all of us. We might question the same thing. But it took a long time. She wondered if God still want me to bring this promised child to life. Because it's never happening. We day by day we getting old. So she thought God had changed His mind. Changed His mind by having her. Because see, Isaac gonna be that promised child. He's the one. His children is gonna be the one to bring God plan, get God plan started, bring it to life. Because Isaac gonna have Jacob, and Jacob family, Joseph gonna be the one to get God plan started. So Sarah asking herself, may she not be the one to bear the promised child? That she thank God to change His mind. So that didn't work out with her and the slave girl. So she back to square one, pleading and asking Abraham, won't you talk to God? Because we ain't had the baby yet that He promised. So God had a plan to bless Abraham and Sarah with their very own baby. Because see, God can sees everything. So she gonna take her slave girl to Abraham to have a baby. So God said, I want you and her to have your own baby, even though that's your baby, but it's not Sarah's baby. I want both of y'all to have your own baby. That's how God wanted. God wanted the seed to come from the two married couple. Not from Hagar. So Sarah with her own baby. So a plan to bless the world through their offspring. Because God had blessed Abraham. But Abraham couldn't get the plan started, because he didn't got hold. He already was 70-something years old when God called him. So Isaac would be the fulfillment of God's promise. So that plan was waiting for. That plan was waiting for. That she got so fed up and tired of waiting. So waiting. So since the promise, it had been a long wait till Abraham and Sarah got old. So the law appealed to Abraham and three men. So Abraham wanted to cook for them. He always had good hospitality when people come to him and Lot to their house. They're ready to feed you. They will feed you real good. So they ate and they stood under a tree. Now they're talking. So three men asked, what is your wife? Because pretty much the conversation going to be about her. So because the talk will be about Sarah, and she is in the tent. So the tent not too far from the tree where they're going to be talking at, so she's still going to be able to hear. So then one of them had said that I will surely return to you, about this time next year. And Sarah, your wife, will have a son. Now she thought God forgot about her. So now Sarah was listening at the entrance. It been a long time. Sometimes we might think that God forgot about the plan, just like he with Israel. It took 400 years, but he ain't forgot. God was hearing everything that was done, crying and praying to him. But he always moved on his own divine time. He don't forget. He don't forget it. See, Sarah thought he forgot. So, I don't think he want me to be the mother of the promised child. God ain't had changed his mind. He heard her. You know, but now Sarah listening. Listen. Now the man said by next year, by this time, your wife will have a baby. So the three men had said they will certainly return to Abraham was now 99 years old. And a promise, for this promise will fulfill. Because see, he said, God said, this promise here, it will fulfill. So when he was 100, the complete year, not the ninth month from the present time to ordinary time of the pregnancy. Now, see, they predict this pregnancy, you know, saying the time and everything else with this pregnancy going to take place. So Abraham said to Sarah, we're already very old. He said, we already very old. And Sarah was past the age of childbearing. And so, but you dealing with God. It doesn't matter how old you is. You don't get no menopause. You don't get none of that no more. But God can perform miracles. Who you think create the babies and stuff. So now they both in age, and she hearing that she will have a son. And she think it's impossible because she's 90 years old. She think it's impossible. Abraham 100 years old. But ain't nothing is impossible for God to do. He can perform a miracle just like he gonna tell Sarah. He said by next year, by this time, you gonna conceive a child. So now they're both in their age, and she will have a son. And all Sarah's life, she had no children. She had passed menopause. So she got to the age, she passed menopause. And you don't get menopause, you don't see no menstruation or none of that. And you pass on having a baby unless you pray to God to perform a miracle. Other than that, you don't get menopause, you don't see menstruation no more. You done. Now she have not received a child all her life. She said, I passed menopause. I don't get none of that. So how is it possible, for me to conceive a child? And nothing impossible for God. So it will be physical impossible for Sarah to conceive and bear a child, but only God could such thing happen. Nobody but God can make this happen. And because just like I said, when you pass menopause and all this other stuff that women have, you will have a baby, but with God, it's the only one that can do the impossible. No matter how old you is, he can do the impossible and proceed that baby for you. So Sarah had laughed. Sarah laughed because she thought it was funny. Sarah laughed to herself as she thought afterwards, I am worn out. She said, I'm worn out. She just started laughing. Huh, me? She said, no, but who, me? I am so worn out. You talking about baby? So, and my Lord is old. What I now have displeasure. Because she like, well, you promised me a baby when I was in my early time, so now she feel like she's not interested, my time hadn't passed. She said my time hadn't passed, and he talking about baby. I'm all rolled out. I'm 90 years old, so she got uninterested. She wasn't even interested no more of the baby until that baby come to life. Now Sarah is listening. From a nearby tent. Remember, she was in that tent. As her husband Abraham, conversate with the three strangers. Now, these men are actually God and two angels. Remember at the beginning, it said the Lord had appeared to Abraham. Then down the line, it said with the three men with him. So one of the men was God, and the other two was part of God angels. You know, so actually, God is the two angels. Disguised in a human form. Because God can disguise in a human form. Remember, he wrestled with Jacob. So the moment when Sarah overheard, and predict that she will soon bear a child, Sarah is 90 years old. Abraham is 100 years old. Now, Sarah first respond to this is laugh. She was laughing in her disbelief. She didn't believe that God can make a baby in her while she 90 years old. So is anything too hard for God? So I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Now he said, is anything too hard for God? Is anything too hard for God to turn the situation around, to form a baby in you at 90 years old? That's nothing too hard or impossible for him to do. So now remember, the three men said at this time next year, Sarah will conceive a son. But Sarah laughed. But God will turn her laugh into laughter. So the Lord did for Sarah what he promised. He said, I will perform a miracle just like I said I would. And he did. He said, by this time next year, you will have a baby. And that's a promise. So the Lord keep his promise, and no matter how unlikely they may seem from a human perspective, not only had God promised to make Abraham a great nation, he had promised special, that nation would come through Sarah. So that's why this long wait, it was worth it. Sometimes we wait. Me too. I'm still in the storm. Sometimes we can wait a long time. But it's the wait worth it. Anything dealing with God, the wait is worth it. So Sarah had become pregnant. And she bear a son, just like they said. To Abraham in his old age at the very time that God had promised her. So it came just like the man said, came at that time, and it came the next year just like they said it would. So now this was a miracle. Sarah was 90 years old. Abraham was 100 years old. But God had formed a baby in Sarah. God had performed a baby in Sarah, what she thought was impossible. Now God has showed us it's never too late, for God to keep his word. It might take a long time. I'm talking to myself, and you might think, has your time passed, or God forgot, or he changed his mind? But God will never change his mind. It was the Israelite 400 years. God still came to their rescue. And when he came to their rescue, everything was still on time. Still on time. So Sarah had become pregnant. She bare a son, and God had promised to her, just like he said, so now there was a miracle, such, both of them was old, and God has showed us that it's never too late for a promise to be fulfilled. So Sarah born a son, and she named him Isaac, and Sarah had said, God had brought me laughter, and everyone who hears, about this will laugh with her. See, when everybody read her story, she got a testimony. Just like the Samaritan woman, she had a testimony. Sarah got a testimony, because she waited a long time for a baby, until she got old, and then God made a promise that she's still going to have that baby, and she done had that baby. She got a testimony. She said when they hear her story, they're going to laugh right along with her. So now God had made laughter for her. You know, Isaac name mean laughter. Everyone who hear her story would laugh over her or with her. You know, now several believe that her story will bring the joy or laughter to others. You know, but because everybody, you know, she just thought it was impossible. She thought it was impossible. You know, so now just because they both was old, you know, and they said you will have a son, she laughed with unbelief. You know, but then God had turned her laugh into laughter. You know, God had promised had came to pass. You know, so that was Sarah. You know, she got tired of waiting for a long time and didn't realize the wait was worth it. You know, because you can have this promised child that can fulfill God's own plan. You know, and so she took matters in her own hands. We can never take matters in our own hands. And that was disaster because she thought the woman was going to turn the baby on to her. The woman said, I'm going to take care of my own child. So she back to square one of trying to get a baby. You know, she got tired of waiting on God. You know, and you turned out, you see, nothing ain't going to work out right when we try to do it on our own. You know, she talking about she thought she was helping God out. You know, we can't help God out. You know, when God make a promise, we can't try to do the promise. You know, so we also talk about the up down inflation. The number is good. It's 3.1. So it's pretty much good. You know, so we talk about forgiveness. I forgive all the ones that who's connected with me, and I forgive all of them, so we can have a blessed coming year of 2024. So I also talk about the impeachment. You know, they still set this impeachment in place for Mr. President Biden, still trying to concentrate on the other issues, you know, that we have going on right now at this moment. You know, so I had blocked the impeachment. You know, so we also talk about Israel soldiers. Some of his soldiers had got killed in the ambush of trying to save the hostages. You know, so we gonna keep on praying. You know, for the remaining hostages to be released and safe. You know, so that's all the news and word that I have for you on tonight. Y'all have a blessed and safe night, and I see y'all on the next video.